Welcome to our deep dive into the appeals and redressal mechanisms under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, or IBC. Today we'll break down the authority structure, the process for addressing grievances, and the key legal principles that guide insolvency resolution in India. Whether you're a professional, a student, or just curious about how insolvency cases are handled, this video will clarify the three-tier adjudicatory system, the role of limitation law, and the ongoing debates between courts. Let's start by understanding the basic structure of the IBC and who can approach the authorities for redressal. IBC provides a clear three-tier adjudicatory mechanism for resolving insolvency and bankruptcy issues. At the first level, we have the National Company Law Tribunal, or NCLT, and the Debt Recovery Tribunal, or DRT. If a party is dissatisfied with their order, they can appeal to the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, NCLAT, or Debt Recovery Appellate Tribunal, DRAT. Finally, on questions of law, appeals can be made to the Supreme Court. This structure ensures that all parties have multiple opportunities for their grievances to be heard and reviewed, maintaining a balance between efficiency and fairness. National Company Law Tribunal, or NCLT, is the primary authority for insolvency matters involving companies and limited liability partnerships. Its jurisdiction is determined by the location of the registered office of the corporate person. All insolvency, liquidation, or bankruptcy proceedings are transferred to the relevant NCLT. Importantly, if someone is aggrieved by an NCLT order, they can appeal to the NCLAT within 30 days. Further, the Supreme Court can be approached within 45 days on questions of law. Civil courts do not have jurisdiction over these matters, ensuring specialized and streamlined adjudication. Time is of the essence in insolvency proceedings. After an NCLT order, appeals to the NCLAT must be filed within 30 days. If further appeal is needed, the Supreme Court allows 45 days from the NCLAT order. Both appellate courts may grant an additional 15 days if there is sufficient cause for delay. These strict timelines are designed to prevent unnecessary delays and ensure timely resolution of insolvency cases, which is crucial for the interests of creditors, debtors, and the overall economy. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code applies to the entire country, including the regions of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. This nationwide applicability ensures that all entities, regardless of their location, are governed by the same set of rules and procedures for insolvency and bankruptcy. The uniform application of the IBC is a significant step towards creating a cohesive and predictable legal environment for businesses and individuals alike. IBC covers a wide range of entities. These include companies, limited liability partnership individuals, Hindu undivided families, partnerships, trusts, and any other entity established under a statute. Even persons residing outside India but with relevant connections are included. This broad coverage ensures that the IBC can address insolvency issues across different types of organizations and individuals, making it a comprehensive legal framework. Anyone whose amount is due with a company or LLP, with a minimum threshold of 1 crore rupees, can approach the NCLT under the IBC for liquidation. This includes financial creditors, operational creditors, corporate debtors, corporate applicants, employees, service providers, and goods providers. The process is designed to be accessible to all stakeholders who have a legitimate claim, ensuring that the insolvency resolution process is fair and inclusive. Financial creditors are those who have lent money to the company, while operational creditors are those who have provided goods or services. Both categories have the right to initiate insolvency proceedings if their dues are not paid. This distinction is important because it determines the process and priority of claims during insolvency resolution. The IBC ensures that both types of creditors have a clear path to seek redressal. Corporate debtor is the company or LLP that owes the debt, while a corporate applicant can be the company itself or someone authorized to act on its behalf. Both have the right to initiate insolvency proceedings under the IBC. This allows for a proactive approach, where even the debtor can seek resolution or liquidation if it is unable to pay its debts, ensuring transparency and accountability in the process. Employees who are owed dues of 1 crore rupees or more by a company or LLP can file a petition under the IBC. This provision empowers employees to seek redressal for unpaid salaries or benefits, ensuring that their rights are protected in the insolvency process. The IBC recognizes employees as important stakeholders and provides them with a direct route to justice. Service providers who have rendered services and raised invoices but are unable to recover their dues, provided the amount is at least 1 crore rupees, can file a petition under the IBC. This ensures that businesses providing essential services are not left without recourse if their payments are delayed or denied, strengthening trust in commercial relationships. Goods providers who have delivered goods and raised invoices but are unable to recover their dues with a minimum threshold of 1 crore rupees can also file a petition under the IBC. This provision, effective after the central government notification in March 2020, ensures that suppliers are protected and can seek timely resolution of their claims. Jurisdiction for filing an application before the NCLT is determined by the state in which the company is registered. For example, if a company is registered in Gurgaon, the connected NCLT bench is in Chandigarh for Haryana. This ensures that cases are handled by the appropriate tribunal based on the company's registered office, providing clarity and order to the process. Let's look at an example. Arnav, a service provider from Jaipur, provides services to ABC Private Limited's Jaipur branch. However, the company is registered in Gurgaon. With total dues of 15 crores, Arnav must file his petition before the NCLT Chandigarh bench, as that is the connected bench for companies registered in Haryana. This example highlights the importance of understanding jurisdiction when seeking redressal. Consider Ankur, who lives in Delhi and works as a manager in Lucknow for XYZ Private Limited. The company is registered in Delhi and his total salary due is 8 crores. Anchor must file his petition before the NCLT New Delhi bench since the company's registered office is in Delhi. This ensures that all cases are filed in the correct jurisdiction, avoiding confusion and delays. Law of limitation applies equally to all applicants and creditors under the IBC. The right to sue accrues when a default occurs, and the default should not have occurred more than 3 years before filing the application. This ensures that claims are made in a timely manner and prevents old, stale claims from clogging the system. The limitation law brings clarity and discipline to the insolvency process. Initially, the IBC did not explicitly mention the applicability of the Limitation Act, leading to confusion and differing interpretations. Early judgments by the NCLAT held that the Limitation Act did not apply to IBC proceedings, leaving many litigants with unanswered questions. This ambiguity highlighted the need for legislative clarity and consistent judicial interpretation. Resolve the ambiguity. Parliament inserted Section 238A into the IBC through the Second Amendment Act of 2018. Effective from June 6, 2018, the section states that the provisions of the Limitation Act, 1963, shall apply to proceedings or appeals before the adjudicating authority NCLAT or DRAT. This amendment brought much-needed clarity and ensured uniform application of limitation principles. Supreme Court, in the case of BK Educational Services Private Limited versus Parag Gupta and Associates, clarified that the Limitation Act applies to applications filed under Sections 7 and 9 of the IBC from the inception of the Code. Article 137 of the Limitation Act is attracted, meaning the right to sue accrues when a default occurs. If the default is over 3 years old, the application is barred unless delay is condoned under Section 5 of the Limitation Act. Despite the Supreme Court's clear rulings, conflicts have arisen with the NCLAT's interpretations. For instance, in Gaurav Hargavan Bhai Dave versus Asset Reconstruction Company, the Supreme Court held that proceedings under Section 7 of the IBC are applications, not suits, and Article 137 applies from the date of default. However, the NCLAT has sometimes taken a different view, applying the limitation from the date of IBC's enactment or using other articles of the Limitation Act. Supreme Court has repeatedly affirmed that the right to apply under the IBC accrues from the date of default, not from the date of the Code's enactment. In Jignesh Shah versus Union of India, this principle was reiterated. The court emphasized that only the date of default is relevant for winding up proceedings and IBC applications, providing much-needed certainty for litigants and practitioners. Despite Supreme Court directions, the NCLAT has sometimes applied Article 137 from the date of IBC's enactment, or used other provisions like Article 61 and Section 14 of the Limitation Act. For example, in B. Prashanth Hegde versus SBI, the NCLAT applied Article 137 from December 1, 2016, when the IBC was enacted, and considered time spent under SARFAESI Act proceedings for condonation. This has led to ongoing legal debates. Sagar Sharma versus Phoenix Arc Pvt. Limited, the Supreme Court made it clear that its judgments must be followed in both letter and spirit. The court stated that NCLAT cannot repeatedly apply Article 62 or other provisions to bypass the Supreme Court's rulings. This reinforced the principle that the right to apply under the IBC accrues from the date of default, ensuring consistency in the application of limitation law. Section 14 of the Limitation Act allows for condonation of time spent in bona fide proceedings due to jurisdictional defects. However, the Supreme Court clarified that proceedings under the SARFAESI Act before the IBC's enactment are not without jurisdictional defect, and thus cannot be used to condone delay for IBC petitions. This distinction is crucial for understanding how limitation periods are calculated. Despite Supreme Court guidance, the NCLAT has continued to refer to Section 14 and Article 61 in some cases, such as Seshnath Singh versus Badiabadi Shorafulai Cooperative Bank Limited. Here, the NCLAT allowed time spent under SARFAESI Act proceedings to be condoned, even though the Supreme Court had clarified the limits of such condonation. This ongoing divergence highlights the complexity of applying limitation law in insolvency cases. Article 137 of the Limitation Act is the central provision for IBC applications. It sets a 3-year limitation period from the date when the right to apply accrues, which is the date of default. This article ensures that all claims are made within a reasonable timeframe, balancing the interests of creditors and debtors and supporting the efficient functioning of the insolvency system. Section 5 of the Limitation Act allows for condonation of delay if sufficient cause is shown. This means that even if an application is filed after the 3-year period, the courts can allow it if the applicant can justify the delay. This provision adds flexibility to the system, ensuring that genuine cases are not dismissed solely on technical grounds. For litigants, understanding the limitation period is crucial. Filing an application after the limitation period can result in dismissal unless delay is condoned. Therefore, parties must act promptly and keep track of the date of default. This practical aspect underscores the importance of legal awareness and timely action in insolvency matters. Several landmark cases have shaped the interpretation of limitation law under the IBC. These include BK Educational Services, Gaurav Hargavan Bhai Dave, Jignesh Shah, Sagar Sharma and Seshnath Singh. Each case has contributed to clarifying when the right to apply accrues and how limitation periods are calculated, providing valuable guidance for future cases. Parliament played a key role in resolving ambiguity by amending the IBC to include Section 238A This legislative intervention ensured that the Limitation Act applies to all proceedings under the IBC, promoting consistency and predictability in the insolvency framework. Such clarity is essential for the effective functioning of the legal system. Supreme Court stands as the final authority on questions of law arising from NCLAT or DRAT orders. Its judgments set binding precedents for all lower tribunals and ensure uniform interpretation of the law. This hierarchical structure is vital for maintaining order and coherence in the legal system, especially in complex areas like insolvency. Civil courts do not have jurisdiction over matters handled by the NCLT under the IBC. This exclusion ensures that insolvency cases are dealt with by specialized tribunals, which have the expertise and resources to handle complex financial disputes efficiently. It also prevents conflicting judgments and streamlines the resolution process. The IBC's comprehensive coverage of entities and individuals ensures that all stakeholders have access to a fair and effective insolvency resolution process. By including companies, LLPs, individuals, and more, the Code addresses the diverse needs of India's business and financial ecosystem. The primary goal of the IBC is to provide a time-bound and efficient insolvency resolution process. By setting clear rules, timelines, and authorities, the Code aims to maximize value for creditors, protect the interests of all stakeholders, and promote economic stability. The IBC is a cornerstone of India's modern financial and legal landscape. For creditors, the IBC offers a structured and reliable mechanism to recover dues. The clear hierarchy of claims, strict timelines, and transparent procedures reduce uncertainty and improve the chances of recovery. This has made lending and business transactions more secure and predictable. Debtors also benefit from the IBC's framework. The Code provides an opportunity for resolution and restructuring rather than immediate liquidation. This encourages businesses to seek timely help and preserves value for all parties, supporting entrepreneurship and economic growth. Adjudicating authorities like the NCLT and DRT play a central role in the IBC process. They are responsible for hearing applications, passing orders, and ensuring compliance with the Code. Their expertise and focus on insolvency matters contribute to the effective functioning of the system. Appellate tribunals like the NCLAT and DRAT provide a vital check on the decisions of the adjudicating authorities. They ensure that errors can be corrected and that parties have a fair opportunity to present their case. This appellate structure strengthens the overall integrity of the insolvency resolution process. The Supreme Court serves as the final appellate authority for questions of law arising from NCLAT or DRAT orders. Its decisions are binding and set the standard for all lower tribunals. This ensures that the interpretation of the IBC remains consistent and authoritative across the country. The jurisprudence around the IBC continues to evolve, with courts and tribunals interpreting new scenarios and resolving ambiguities. Each judgment adds to the body of law, refining the application of the Code and ensuring that it remains relevant to changing business realities. For all stakeholders, legal awareness is essential. Understanding the IBC's provisions, timelines, and procedures can make the difference between success and failure in insolvency proceedings. Staying informed helps parties protect their rights and navigate the system effectively. By providing a robust framework for insolvency resolution, the IBC supports economic growth and stability. It encourages responsible lending, timely repayment, and efficient allocation of resources. The Code's impact extends beyond individual cases, shaping the broader business environment in India. Here's a visual representation of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code framework. This diagram summarizes the key authorities, appeal routes, and timelines involved in the process. Understanding this structure helps all parties navigate the system more effectively and ensures that their actions are timely and appropriate. Sum up, the IBC provides a structured, time-bound, and comprehensive mechanism for insolvency resolution in India. The three-tier adjudicatory system, clear limitation rules, and evolving jurisprudence ensure that all stakeholders have access to justice. Staying informed and acting promptly are key to making the most of the opportunities and protections offered by the Code. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the appeals and limitation framework under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. We hope this video has clarified the roles of different authorities, the importance of limitation law, and the ongoing legal debates. Understanding these principles is essential for anyone involved in insolvency matters. Stay tuned for more insights on legal and financial topics.